Good morning, folks. The real Captain Kirk here, live from Weather Trends 360 Studios here in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. It is the 13th of May. Had to laugh last week when I read this headline that Mother's Day sales were expected to be earth-shattering after last year's really strong Mother's Day. One thing retailers and analysts forgot to look at was the weather change year over year. Recall last year we had the coldest, snowiest March across the country in some 20 years, and then we had record-shattering hot, dry weather in May. My Mother's Day last year was, for example, was the second hottest in over 30 years. So epic sales last year for Mother's Day. A lot of that's due to the weather. Obviously, it's really hot. We had a lot of demand for everything under the sun, not only for Mom, but for everybody else as well. This year, the coldest in 9 years, and as you can see, this map on the right here, pretty much where everyone lives, maybe other than California and maybe Florida, country was much, much, much colder. Again, we'd say third coldest Mother's Day in 30 years, again, which is just an epic change year over year of a 9-degree drop, which is just huge downward trends for seasonal sales. So again, I don't expect that Mother's Day was all that great sales-wise. Looking at this week, coldest in 3 years, 11th warmest in 30 years. A little misleading in the Northeast. We're going to start off here with this epic cold weather, 40s today for highs here outside our studios here, just epically cold for mid-May, crazy cold. May even see some wet snow in the higher elevations of New England here this next couple days. Country as a whole, 10th wettest in 30 years. A little drier than last year, but again, a lot of rain out there. In fact, look at all that rain in California. That is unheard of. That'll be many feet of snow as we look here over the next 2 weeks in California and the high Sierras. So very unusual to see that much rain in California here this week and again next week as well. The warming trend here in the east will be pretty dramatic. This is the chart on the left is our Bethlehem forecast trend chart. Going from highs only in the 40s today to hopefully 80 by Sunday. So if you didn't have such a great Memorial Day Mother's Day Sunday here in the east with the epic rainfall and freezing cold weather, next weekend here, the 18th, 19th, looks much, much better for the eastern half of the country, even getting to northeast. So something to look forward here this just a few days here. Eastern U.S. here, we'd say the coming weekend, the 18th to 19th, about the fourth warmest in 30 years. So we'll take it. This is the model estimation of snowfall. Pretty epic there in the Sierras, 2 plus 3 feet of snow. This is just crazy snow for mid-May. We say long winter. They may actually be skiing through the entire season here, summer season, as much snow as there is out in the west of California. So again, just a crazy amount of snow. And this is actually, if we look at the rainfall here again for next week, the week prior to Memorial Day, 20 through 26 May, again, more epic rain and snow in California. So a couple weeks here of cold and wet and snow. That's actually very bad news for the grape industry. Again, a lot of vegetation actually out there. Just the cold rain and cloudy weather is just not good, and they're just not used to it here. So pretty epic to say the least. Most we've seen in 30 plus years out in California. Nation as a whole, little cooler than last year, but still 6th warmest in 30 years. So again, not bad. A little bit of cool weather in the New England, and again, that cold weather out west. Driest in 3 years, but again, nationally, we're still going to be the 9th wettest in 30 years here for this week, leading up to Memorial Day weekend. If we do glance at Memorial Day here, there's the early outlook, 24 through 27 May, that Friday through Monday period. Coolest in 6 years nationally, but near average for the holiday weekend. Last year was the #1 hottest Memorial Day in 30 years. So again, nowhere near as good as last year, unfortunately. But hopefully, driest in 12 years nationally, 4th driest in 30 years. Let's hope that pans out, because we definitely need a drier pattern here, because this rainfall across the country has been crazy wet. Last year was on the warm, it was hot side, obviously, but a little bit on the thunderstormy side as well. Last year was the 5th wettest in 30 years. So let's hope a little bit warmer here than in the east. Don't like to see that much cold here over the holiday weekend, but time for this to change a bit, but doesn't look like it's going to be a earth-shattering hot in the northeast here, at least for Memorial Day. If we look at the drought conditions, obviously are non-existent. This is the percentage of the country in drought status, and we peaked back in the 2002 when on this date we'd had 64% of the country with drought status. This year we're at 10%. So this is crazy low drought status. Again, just a lot of rain across the country. So again, everything will be growing like crazy here this year. But again, we'd be looking out for 2020, because this pattern will correct after the weak El Nino collapses. So we may very well be looking at drought type status going into higher drought status as we go into 2020. Real quick recap on the hurricane season. Again, this was the outlook we've published here over a month ago. Again, leaning below average, and that's just in our general take because of the weak El Nino wind shear, and we'll talk about some other factors here. Is your name on the list? I'm actually on the list in 2021 and then again in 2024. We were just on the list here this past 2018 season. So again, check it out. These are the official names for the next few years. See if your name is on the list. One inhibiting factor is going to be the dust coming off Africa. And so this is just actually the next couple weeks, and you can see how that dust off the Sahara and Africa is just coming all the way across the Atlantic, and then it goes into the Caribbean. In fact, some of this may actually even reach parts of Texas. So if you see kind of a hazy sky there in Texas and throughout the Caribbean, you can blame the Saharas of Africa for some of that dust coming off the continent. As we struggle through all these weekends, we've had 67% of our weekends here in the East have been wet. It's 22 rain days this spring on weekends, and so it's just been epic how much rain we've had on weekends. So taking the little one to every indoor venue we can possibly find. Bounce U is one of the favorites here. Again, running out of weekends here, so hopefully this weekend, the 17th through 19th, looks better. So fingers crossed for that. With that, folks, we hope you have a great week, and we will be back here this time next week.